Okay, that should be recording. Okay, so once again, thank you very much for your time, guys. I'm Prakash Money. I want to just start, as I did my previous sessions, a little bit about me. I'm a qualified IPEC and World Coaching Federation coach. But this is not just about the coaching qualification. I've also done other utilities, tools, certifications, etc. And I try and bring all those experiences together in order to propose a framework for all the sessions that I run. So it's not just one thing, there's NLP, there's other things as well in the mix. Okay, so today's session, we're all going to find out how to get a dream job. Right. We all want a dream job. Thank you, all of you, for sharing in the introduction section about what you guys want to do. There's a main concept around a dream job that I want to emphasize, right? And the concept is we can all find our dream job if we dedicate our best effort in a structured and focused approach and a positive attitude. I just want you guys to digest that sentence for a second. All of us can find our dream job. It just takes the right structured approach, positive attitude, and a lot of effort. Okay. I'm proposing, in terms of the structure, what I would propose is a three-stage process, and that's just at a high level in order to get your dream job and go closer towards it. So what are those three steps? The first step, when we talk about our dream job, you know, a lot of us, Filippo was kind enough to talk about, he likes to travel. How deep and how rich is our dream? You know, how much do we really understand our dream, and how much content and detail is there in our dream job? It's funny, I had conversations with a lot of people. They say, oh, my dream job is to do this or do that. And then you ask a couple of clarifying questions, and very soon they realize they haven't dreamt this job through. There is the allure of a lot of money, or the allure of one aspect of the job that is very appealing. But how many of us have actually broken all that down and invested in our dream to try and really understand what is our dream job? And I think as a first step, understanding our dreams and building that job profile to the next level is crucial to getting a dream job. How will we do that? In the subsequent slides, I'll explain. Once we have our dream job, what does it really mean to the world? I think that's obviously crucial. Filippo said earlier on, you know, if I could make money with my dream, that'll be great. And that's really key. How can you translate something that you love doing into something that makes a difference to the world? And the difference to the world is what will generate the capital for you, right? If it doesn't make any difference to anybody else, balance of probably you will not be able to sustain yourself doing what you feel passionate about. So understanding the market, understanding really what difference your passion will do to the world is a crucial second step. Obviously, the third step, as you can probably guess, is to bridge the two. So now you've dreamt your job well, you've understood what difference it makes to the market. You want to then bridge it. You want to, for lack of a better saying, hunt that dream job, sell your dream, make that transition into something that you're passionate about. So, you know, as a very high level structure, those are the three steps. Just to divide your activities into those three phases is how you can go towards achieving your dream goal. Now, some assumptions I want to highlight very upfront, and I'm going to refer to these assumptions. Common things that questions ask, people say, hey, but that's not easy. Well, I've got news for you. Easy is nothing. It's not about something that's easy. It's not something that's just, you know, if it was so easy, every one of us will be in our dream job doing what we want, and this session will not have anyone attending. So easy is nothing. Effort is it's not for discussion. The effort is important. As with everything else, in terms of finding a job, in terms of selling a business, in terms of everything, there's always an uncontrollable in any kind of job hunting project. We have to be cognizant of that. But the strategy should be to maximize your chances. And everything we try to do is about maximizing our chances. So at the onset, I'm just setting the stage. I'm going to talk about these 3 steps. I just want to emphasize the assumptions. And once I got those 2 together, I'm convinced everyone can find our dream job. Okay. Any questions or clarifications on what I've shown so far? Please, if I could request hands up, and then I can see anyone with hands up. Or Nadi can help me as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take that as a no. But carry on. Okay, so let's talk about dreaming your job well, right? What is it you really want to do for a job? Okay, we talk about travel, we talk about, so what is it about traveling? Is it about being in a different place? Is it about being up in the air in an airplane? Is it a combination? How can we break out and bring more richness into what our dream is? Okay, some of the tips are already there in your current job. And I'm going to emphasize this point quite a few times throughout this presentation. For those of you in your current job or just left a job, a lot of clues in what you like to do, especially as a profession, are there in the job that you're currently doing or you recently did. Don't ignore that. You might have hated it, and I'm going to talk about that a little later, but at one point, you were made a job offer and you accepted it. You went through an interview process, you went through a selection, and you accepted a job offer. There were things you liked, and there still are. Those clues are important. Okay, do a simple exercise. List the happiest moments in your current or your latest job. Just list them down. Initially, you might struggle to list more than 1 or 2, but that's training your brain a little bit to explore further, to bring that structure out and to tease out the dream that resides inside you. Every evening, start to develop a habit of things that you liked about the day. If you're currently in a job, try and list 2 or 3 things every day. Look for them. They will start to build you clues on what are the things you like. Okay? Also, the whole career. I mean, spend some time investigating those clues, things that made you happy. Okay? What were things that you really enjoyed doing in your career? Right from your university days, maybe you did a little side job, maybe you did other activities when you were in school, various places. Look for those clues and really expand and draw out a story of what your dream job is. There are lots of structured exercises that describe these activities and how you can draw them out. Career coaching is built on a framework to extract these pieces of information. You can use many, in Google, there are lots of these exercises, but spending the time is something that you cannot shortcut on. The structures and the frameworks, there are tons of them, but you've got to invest the time. Draw out your dreams. Speak to people around you.
Prakash, can I ask a question?
Please, and if you can request you to hands up and then use it that way so that we can structure the questions in, but please go on.
I was going to ask you to look for those clues and to look for the happiest moments and to know really what you want to do. I've been told it's very good to sort of put a storyboard together, like put a blank sheet of paper and then write everything that comes to your mind for half an hour and then put that on the wall and visualize that. Can you recommend that?
Yes, whatever works for you. Like I explained, there are many frameworks. So whether it's a storyboard, whether it's just a sheet of documentation, just you're writing your dreams, whatever works for you. And that's a key point. You have to find something that works for you. Now, I could have, the idea about the dream job is I could have spent a whole day doing a workshop with example templates, etc. I've tried to extrapolate a lot of these concepts at a high level. At the next level down, there are many ways to do it. If I describe every example and what I preach, etc., that will not have been a 1 hour session, but probably a day-long session. Again, what your example you're suggesting is a valid example, and that's one way to do it. But I'm trying to not be too prescriptive on how to do it. Find out something that works. The idea is to coax out clues and to build your dream. So the second point I said was about the career, and the third point is also explore your dreams. Maybe you haven't done something that you wanted to do so far. So let me give you my example. When I was a small child, I wanted to be a train driver because I love train journeys, right? And I thought, oh, it'll be great to sit in the front of the train, feel the speed, and enjoy the countryside from the front window seat. I never became a train runner because after a while, that dream was no longer relevant for me, or I decided that that dream was no longer relevant. But there were elements in that, the ability to see new places, the ability to be in the countryside and have journeys, meet new people. I extrapolated elements of that dream of being a train driver and removed stuff that was not relevant. So that's also something you need to coax out. Again, whether it's a storyboard, whether it's a journal, just start writing down these points. Write as much as you can. Extract as much information as you can. Okay, and then once you've done all that, think of actions. Okay, all that encyclopedia, all that notes here, think of what actions you like to do. You know, you like to talk, you like to meet, you like to hold meetings, you like, take at a granular level and identify actions, verbs you really, really like to do. Build, and then what kind of people do you like to work for? You know, you like actions, you're always doing stuff, you understand what you like, but what are the people you want to interact with? What makes you tick? What excites you? Find that next level of information. Which industry? Okay, what kind of industries are you? So it's about starting from a blank piece of paper, dumping all your thoughts from these clues. Once you have a whiteboard, a storyboard, whatever you want to call it, of all of these thoughts, verbs and actions, then start to put more color into it. Is there an industry? Is there a kind of particular profile of people? And there could be other questions you might ask yourself to draw this information out. And that's why getting the richness in the content of your dreams is crucial. Once you have done all of that, okay, and only once you're done of that, I'm not going to ask you now, look back at what you're doing currently on a scale of 1 to 10. Where does your current job sit? And it's interesting.
Oh, no.
Answer the question now for yourself, and then do all these exercises, explore your dreams, look for the clues, spend 2 or 3 weeks, maybe even a month doing that, depending on how much time you have. And then ask this question again and see if there's a difference. Because one of the things I passionately believe, and that's something that I say, is you need to learn to love a job before finding a job you love. And that's clear. And if we were talking about relationships and a lot of other things, that underlying principle of opening your heart out and opening your mind out to the possibilities is something that's crucial in finding a dream job. You must have the openness to dream and the openness to love and the openness to like. Any questions so far on the dream aspect of your job? Just quickly checking if there's any hands up. I don't see any. Hold on. One thing I'll also like to emphasize, you know, a lot of times people say, Yes, you can find your passion. You can be happy every day. Yes, you can. And that's true. But don't be put off if you're currently too far from that scenario and you think that is too difficult, because it's a step change. And every step you make in that change to in that direction is a positive step. Don't be put off by people who promise you the world and you're going to be happy every day and you're going to wake up all bright and you're going to be most passionate. You might get there, and it's not impossible, but don't forget, every step you take in that direction is a step that will make you happier and get you closer to your dream. Okay, so that's the dream part. So next part is also about understanding the market. I'll focus on the job element first. I'll give you a framework and then tell you what an example is in terms of understanding the market. So once you got your dream, you got your actions, you got the people, you got the industry, we then need to research the jobs in the market. Again, not something overcomplicated. Go to your LinkedIn, go to your Indeed.com and the jobserve.com and whatever the jobs that are there, use the public information to look for what kind of roles have the activities that you love. Okay, so you got your verbs, look for job descriptions. Just there are thousands, even in the worst economic condition, job sites have thousands of jobs. That's just a fact. Some of them are repeating, some of them, but the purposes of study, this is not the purpose of applying, this is the purpose of study. You have a wide plethora of jobs that you can search for that match your, and when you try to filter it based on actions, skills, people, filter it on something that comes from your dream. Talk to people you know. You know, there are people you know all around you, and I'll talk about networking in detail later on, but just your immediate friends, look at the people you know, look at their jobs, try and see if you understand a bit more on the industry. It's crucial to understand what you have for your dream job. Balance of probability, you have things that are going to be used in your dream job already. It's very unlikely that your dream job is something that you've not done anything about it at all ever, because your dream job will be something based on your experience, balance of probability. So there'll always be something that you have that you're going to bring to your dream job. Think of all the demonstrable skills, certification, experience, etc. I'm not talking about a CV, but just write them down and note them down in a way to understand what you're bringing to the table. And then know what you will need. Okay? And I'll explain a little more about what that is and how to go about that in the next slide. But it's important for any dream job to have a good understanding of what you bring to the table and also really be cognizant of what you will need. And then once you've got those three elements, you just need a plan. You need a plan to get there. And that's the key. You got your dream, you built your dream, now build your dream to the market. And it's a crucial part of the second stage of getting your dream job. Right, so when I explained about that, that was very conceptual in nature, right? So let me translate that to an example approach. We talked about storyboarding in terms of building your dream. We talked about a simple bullet list of storytelling or capturing information. There's various elements in order to capture. In terms of hunting or researching the market, I'm going to provide an example approach. Again, it's a little more structured to what I explained. Look at a popular job site every day and observe all the jobs. Filter based on the criteria from your dream job. Highlight ones that interest you and research the role. Look for public information on public sites of the company. Look at LinkedIn and look at people who do that role. Jot down key commonalities and skills. Start to build a connection with that kind of a role. Understand what it takes. Okay. So for each of the job titles you have shortlisted, Assume for the period of this exercise that you have infinite time and energy to equip yourself to do the job. Okay, identify what you will need from a time, effort, and money perspective to be the best in that job, not just what you would need to just do it. How will you become the best? If it's your dream job, there's no excuse for you not trying to be the best in it. Okay, just I can do it is not good enough, and that's never going to take you far. So think of what are the things that you need to become the best in that job. And then based on that exercise, so you might start with like 20 job titles and you might go through a list and spend hours on this job. And I'll talk about how much effort. Researching there shouldn't be a shortcut. You shouldn't just go one day, look for 10 jobs, write it down, 2 hours, you got something. That's not good enough. You should be spending days. And hopefully if you have someone to soundboard it with, really that's the best way to do it. Reflect, collect information, go to sleep, reflect, really feel that emotional connection, build it over a period of time. Once you do that for the long list of jobs, and everything is possible, nothing's impossible, you just want to develop yourself to be the best. Now look at all that list you have created, 20 jobs, 30 jobs, whatever it is, the more the merrier. And now try to build a short list. A short list of 1 or 2 jobs through that process that you have come through that has taken you weeks to get here, to really shortlist the job. The longer you take to explore your dreams, first, get those actions out. Then, stage 2, research more and feel that connection. The better your chances are to get your dream job in a more efficient way. And also, the better your chances are that you will be successful at it. So the last point I'd say is the shortlisting of 1 or 2 jobs is also very crucial. You don't want to be hunting 20 jobs, 20 types of jobs at the same time. It reduces your focus. You want to be focused around a particular kind of role in a particular kind of industry. The more focused, the more detail, the better, because your strategy of bridging that gap is more defined. And once you have done that, if you can speak to people who are doing the job, all the stuff you've brought in your brain in terms of these actions or what you like, all the research you want, there's nothing like validating it with someone who is doing a similar kind of role if possible, if that's possible at all. Okay, any questions so far? I will take that as a no. So if you're running your business, if your dreams are not for a job, I mean, most of you would have thought about job as being something working in an organization, a small organization, a big organization. But what if your dreams lead you to run your business? Again, setting up your own business is a more detailed session. It's a lot more complex. But I've got a list of 10 questions as a framework which you can use if you want as a starting point to really build that detail out. So 10 questions I would say are: convert your dream actions into a service or a product. Most businesses are either selling a service or a product, or both. But usually when you're creating your dream and what you want to do, you can translate that into either a service or a product. How does the service or a product make a difference to people? Make sure it's quantifiable. You might like the idea, but how much is that like worth? Okay, make sure you really understand that. How many people do you think are going to have this need? Okay, so what's the market size? You need to again research that. How will you deliver? How does that delivery excite you? How does that delivery make you feel? And how is it going to work out? How many entities already supply this need? So what's your competition in this? How easy is it to provide your threat of entry? And people who have done marketing courses and understand business, some of this is probably redundant, but I'm addressing a wider audience. So hopefully some of you find this useful. So how easy is it to provide this service? You know, if it's easy to provide, but no one's thought of it, you start to be successful, there'll be other people jumping in easily to give you competition straight away. So that's also crucial. And that another way of looking at it is what's unique about your service product? What makes you the perfect person to deliver this service and this product? How will you sell it? Selling is important. And even if you're going for your job, you are selling yourself as your passion, as your dream. You are selling it to people who are going to buy it from you. And how will you maintain it? What's the ongoing development? How will you keep carrying on doing what you love to do? And how will it become sustainable? How will you scale? Because you don't want to just keep doing what you're doing. You want to build it up. You want to become better. You want to enlarge it. So these are 10 questions that anytime you want to create your dream and sell it as a business, at the very minimal as a starting point, you should have answers to. So you've got your dream, you've done your research, you're now ready to build the bridge. This is where the real hard work starts. So I talked about some of this before in terms of preparation. You need to have your key strengths and experiences to create a very relevant story for your dream job. By now, you really have done your research on the company, the job you want. You've done some research into yourself because you understand why is this dream relevant for you. So it's kind of starting to build there. So there are some documents and what they are, I don't want to overcomplicate it with words, but capability document is just your capability. So instead of a CV where you got chronological listing of everything you've done, you reverse that and you say, what is your main capability and skill? You highlight the skill and then you put your experiences under them. So having a collateral like that saying, hey, I am great at sales because biggest part of my experience is sales. Identify the sales win. I am then great at influencing, then the influencing piece. So all your capabilities and experiences under that is a great structure to have in as a collateral to keep with you. Anecdotal journal. So anecdotal journal is something like you have your little stories about yourselves that sometimes you're told to friends and family, etc. And people have reacted and says, that's a great story. Keep a nice encyclopedia of those. For casual conversations, when you're meeting people, etc., make sure you have that ready as a relevant thing to bring out at the right time. Elevator speech, I think most of you would have heard of what an elevator speech means, but having your elevator speech, what makes you ready? What makes you the exciting person? The elevator speech, for those who don't know what that is imagine you enter an elevator, you meet a very senior, important person. That person is sharing that elevator with you for a very, very short time. And so in that short time, you need to have those 2, 3, 4 sentences that really evoke that interest, that is very impactful, that create the interest, that wants to make that important person know you more, and you want to exchange contacts for further discussion. That's what an elevator speech is. So that having that elevator speech is very important. Okay, I talked about CVs, but before you go to the actual CV, you should, another encyclopedia that you have, when you talked about your strengths and experiences, try and structure them into a star format. What is a star format? So let's say you've done a particular achievement, you've done some great stuff in your previous job, in another job, something outside of your work as a hobby. Always try to create a description of 6 or 7 high impactful sentences. Structure them that first sentence or 2 describes the situation. Okay, what was the situation around this around this achievement or this action you took. What was the task assigned to you? So when you're talking of a career or anything you did, what was your task assigned to you? What were key actions you took, right? Having one or two sentences on each of these three areas and one impactful sentence on that result. So try and break up your encyclopedia into that kind of a structure of star. There's no substitute for practice. Unfortunately, all of us know that, but very few of us act on that. Practice the speech, practice the elevator speech. Look, ask people to review your capability, get second opinions of the documents you have. As much as possible, build that environment so you develop your confidence and it's got 2 or 3 eyes to look at what you have done. Preparation is key. There's a famous saying, fail to prepare and prepare to fail. And there's plenty of cliches around, but preparation is absolutely vital. And I think this is a very important point. Preparation should be fun, should be exciting. Don't be scared of it. Spend the time, invest in it, put your emotion in it. I want to speak about networking. I'm going to speak about it at a high level. There's a whole session that can be designed on networking. For those of you who have seen my previous sessions, I've talked about rapport building. I've talked about active listening. I've talked about influencing. All of that comes into networking. For the purposes of this exercise, I just want to bring out some high level concepts of networking. In order to network, you need people. So find people. Reactivate your contacts, your old friends, people you have lost touch with, just Facebook people you accepted a Facebook contact because they were a friend of a friend, the LinkedIn contacts, the second contacts, etc. Have a campaign of contact reactivation. Don't ask for a job. Okay, you're not job hunting at this point. You're just activating contacts. And that is a very important distinction. Don't activate your contacts directly for a job. That is not great practice, in my opinion. Activate your contacts to build your network. Once you have the network, let the network work for you. But don't go around asking to build a network for job hunting. A lot of people do that, and it's a lot more painful and doesn't work as effectively as if you can divorce the job hunting part and just build the network as a strategy. Okay. Also look for particular people doing the role in the industry and have discovery meetings. I don't know how many of you know what discovery meetings are, but I get this request every now and then. People ask me, oh, you're in the financial services industry, you do this, can I have a little chat? I just want to understand the market a bit more. And it's always refreshing to see someone reaching out to learn more. Eventually, probably they're looking for a job, but that's okay. They haven't asked you for your job. They have asked you for information. They have asked you for advice. Asking for information, asking for advice, asking to learn more often than not evokes a positive response in people. It's not guaranteed, but you'll get a lot further. Spend time understanding. This is probably obvious. If you're looking for a dream job, find out where these people hang out, whether it's virtual, whether it's social, and try and put yourself in that environment. I think the more you are in that environment, the more chance you have of meeting people, understanding more, and talking the lingo and being part of that role. Again, a crucial element in networking. Be in the conferences and networking events, the formal, the semi-formal events that are around the industry, around the activities that your dream job entails. Be around people because people offer people jobs. Most of you know about job hunting. We'll come to job hunting a little bit later in terms of the informal job hunting, but being around people helps. So make sure, as I explained, start with building your network. Don't look for a job at this point. Just understand people, keep an open mind, be curious, and explore. Now, one thing I will bring out here is a lot of you maybe are introverts. You have a negative association with networking, thinking, oh, I've got to go out and meet a bunch of strangers. It's going to be painful. I appreciate that. And it's not easy. Some of you are naturally extroverts, and this might be an easier thing. For some of you, you're naturally introvert. This might be more of a challenge. But find out those motivations, find out things that work for you, find out mental models that work for you to be in this networking opportunity. Don't go there with a heavy mindset. I have to meet these people, I have to talk to them. The less you have that mindset, the more natural and successful you are. Have those 5 or 6 standard questions. Tell me more about your job, tell me more about what you do. Tell me more. Those open questions. I mean, for those who attended the open questions session on influencing, have that structure of 5 or 6 questions that you can ask naturally to people that showcases interest and also helps you build rapport. One thing I would say, and discipline is key. When you are meeting and you're really networking, you've got a plan to meet lots and lots of people. Keep a journal of the people you've met and key information. When I say journal, it doesn't have to be some complicated book. It could just be business cards, collecting business cards, writing a few key notes in the back of the business cards and keeping them together. That's as good as a journal as it gets. But you can be a little more complex, maybe have an Excel sheet, maybe just do it on paper in a book, whatever, but keep a track. And every time you learn something, keep a track, because that'll help you the next time you meet people. It'll keep memory focused. You'll also know if you're not doing the same thing again. Any questions on networking? I don't see any hands up. Sarah raised her hand. Sarah, please.
Hi, Prakash. Thank you for the talk so far. Really enjoying it. With the networking part, something that I do find sometimes is that people are not always very open to giving advice. I don't know if it's because they feel like threatened or they feel like you're going to be their competition, especially if you're in the same industry or you want to move into that industry or do something similar to them. So what tips could you give about how to build the rapport, how to show somebody that you're not a threat to them, you're not going to steal their business clients or something like that, where you can actually, you can work in harmony and you can actually help each other out?
Thank you, Sarah, for the question. So I'll almost say there's 3 elements to this approach, okay? The first element, it's really crucial that you introspect and make sure you're getting rid of any agenda that you might have, because it'll always come across. No matter how good you are, how efficient you are with having that agenda deep inside, try and be naturally curious about the person so that you're open to exploring different angles, seeing if there are other things that work, etc. So that's kind of step 1, to just check. I'm not saying that's always the case, but have that as a first point of check. Okay. The second point is around, if look always when you're engaging with someone, look for visual clues they give about discomfort, about what they are doing, and find common ground. Sometimes that common ground might not be something you're interested in. Maybe they're protective about certain piece of information. Don't attack that piece of information. And if they're protective about it, move on to something a little more mutually pleasant, mutually shareable. Be very sensitive when you talk to people. If you don't have an agenda and you're naturally curious with people, that's easy. If you got that agenda and you want to focus on a particular area and you see the insensitivity and you see the sensitivity in them, you then also are in that tangle of insensitivity and discomfort. So you should try and disassociate with that discomfort and explore other areas. So remember, networking is about making contacts, and making contacts means you need to find a mutual exchange of information. That is why those anecdotes I talked about, those having that journal of interesting things that you can share, it then becomes a mutual sharing thing. Does that address your question, Sarah?
Yes, thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you. I'm just writing that down.
Okay.
Another thing as well, Prakash, I was, I'm making notes of the presentation, and I've missed something from earlier. I don't know if you're able to go back at the end of when you have finished, or should I ask you right now?
You can ask me the question. I don't want to go back on the slide, but if it's something easy, I can address it.
Okay, no, it wasn't actually a question because I was just making notes and I didn't actually finish before you moved on to the next slide. But I don't know if you're going to share the recording.
Not only am I going to share the reporting, but this whole session is being recorded and it's going to be on YouTube so everyone can see it.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Anyone else with any questions?
Hello, Prakash.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for sharing. It's Duma.
Hi, Duma.
Yes. Hi. Thank you for sharing. Okay. I think like just I'm not sure like comment or question. It's like you mentioned like about reactivate your contact. So actually like what the best thing because like we very active in social media, right? Like in LinkedIn or in maybe like right now focus in LinkedIn. So how we, in the good way, I mean like to approach our networking, to asking, it's like you recommended like discovery meeting. So what actually like in the good way, in the proper manner to ask them. So it's not only like because they will like asking what the expectation, blah blah blah, something like that. So what the best, how we approach them, I mean like that.
You know, again, I'll go back to the same answer. I wouldn't like to be prescriptive on how you meet and interest people. You know, even the most standard thing, if you can make sure your agenda is curiosity about meeting someone, a lot of times it makes the job easier. Ask for a coffee, ask for a phone call. There is obviously cultural elements. There's how do you make a connection with someone? Now, I'm assuming when you say reactivate, these are people you already know, right?
Yeah.
If they're people you already met somewhere, you already know them, then that's easy. We haven't chatted for a long time. Hey, how are you doing? How are you doing is just so open. You know, they respond back, they establish a connection. Make sure you're cognizant of what they respond back. I mean, they're just saying, good, thank you, how are you? You've got a connection. Okay? Build on that gently. And then ask to meet, ask to chat. And that's never a standard way of doing it. You've got to, it's almost like a trial and error. And the trial and error doesn't give you a standard framework. It's trial and error for every person, right? So if you are activating your contacts and you're looking at 100 contacts, it's possible 20 don't engage. They're too busy. They're doing other things. That's okay. But if you really expand it out and you're reaching out to 100 people, even worst case, if only 5 or 10 come and meet you, that's 5 or 10 more than you started out with. And it's important to have that approach of being open, being sensitive, and also appreciating that sometimes people are busy and they might not be engaging with you. And that's okay. You can't change their behavior. You can't influence them to like you or to connect with you. But the wider you scan your net, the more people you find that are happy to connect with you.
Okay. Yeah. So it's meaning like for discovery meeting, actually we don't have like, this is the goal I should expect from the meeting. You mean like that, right? Just fact finding.
I missed that last part. Sorry.
So I mean like for discovery meeting, actually we don't have the, I think like we don't have expectation. You mean like that, right?
That's
so
correct.
Just,
that's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Make sure expectation is your agenda. If you're as agenda free as you can become when you reach out to people, as naturally curious as you can be, the better your chances of connecting with people. Obviously, once you've got connections, you need to have that encyclopedia of interesting things and building those bridges. That's important. You can't be the 5-year-old baby that doesn't know anything and goes there, because then you will lose the connection very quickly. But when you're starting, try and be as agenda free as possible when you're making that first connection. Then it's all about each individual. How can you build that rapport with them? Ask open questions, see their interest, match their interest, develop the connection. That's all that was a detailed session I did in the rapport building, where you connect with them and build that. But that's rapport. But to your question, when you start out to connect, reach out as wide as possible without an agenda, as you say.
Yeah. Thank you, Prakash. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, I'll move on. So you've done the networking. Now you've got some jobs and you see some jobs, and how do you apply for these jobs? Again, try and make this phase as late in the whole project as possible. The later you are in a job application, the more you're researching, the more you're investing, the better your chances are at this stage. Okay. One thing I will always say to everyone, don't scattergun your CV. And what does that mean? How many times you see it everywhere in the public domain? Hey, I applied for 100 jobs, not one came back to me. I applied for 200 jobs, not one came back to me. I applied for so many roles, not one came back. Well, my premise and my advice is do not do that. Randomly applying with your standard CV to 100 roles because you believe that line 21 on page 2 of your CV shows that you can do the job, and so you're just applying, has a very, very low probability of success. So scattergunning a standard CV to hundreds of roles is a strategy I would personally dissuade all of you from doing. And if you've already done the exercises below, there won't be 100 jobs in your dream job. That means something's wrong with your dream job exercise. So as a rule, do not scattergun CVs. Also, avoid applying for the job in the cold. What do I mean by that? You've seen a job advert, you know it's your dream job, just don't respond to that job advert. That's not the best way to approach it. Give yourself a little more knowledge, give yourself a little more advantage. Research the company and the role extensively outside of the job advert. Today's day and age, there's really no excuse not to do this. There's so much public information available. You know, time and effort there is no substitute for that. And there's no excuse not for doing that. Make sure you research the company and the role extensively at a job expert. Look for people working in similar roles and see their profile. If you can kind of meet someone, maybe in a competing organization or maybe something in a safe environment, great. If you can't, if the job is very public and it's too close to closure, etc., maybe that's a bit tricky. But whatever intelligence you can gather, look at their profile, see if you can find some clues. Okay. And also, if you've built your network and there are people in that organization where you're applying, speak to them. Okay. At worst, they'll say, look, I can't really help you because that'll be unfair. That's okay. But that's almost the worst case. In most of the cases, the very least is they'll give you some tips. And in many, many cases, there are internal organizational and incentives for people to recommend people. I know in my company, in other big companies, if you recommend someone for a role and they get it, you get paid. It's very common in a lot of big organizations because people prefer to recruit through knowing. And this is something I just want to spend a couple of seconds. It's not there on the slide, but I want to spend a minute explaining. That cold CV is something that even the people who are hiring are very scared of. And it's always a hit and miss. So when a recruiter, a HR person or a recruiting agency or a hiring manager is looking at CVs, balance of probability, they are looking for reasons to reject you. They'll look at the first 3 or 4 things in the CV and they're looking for reasons to reject you. Why? because they probably have 100 CVs and they don't want to look through all of them. The average time, and I don't know if it's true and where the data comes from, but the average time a person looks at a CV is 7 seconds. You've got 7 seconds to attract that person's attention. And you can look up of how to create the perfect CV and how to make sure all the information, but you can do all of that. 7 seconds, in my view, is a huge hit and miss. And that is why the whole idea of just submitting a CV cold for me has a very, very low probability of success. Your success ratio goes tremendously high if people know you in that environment. So again, I'll emphasize, I'll go back to the point on the slide. Use your network to express interest and seek advice. Avoid asking for a direct recommendation in case it's sensitive, but sometimes you will be offered it because there might be incentive, and then that's great. If all of that you've done the research, make sure every job in application is unique and you're really customizing your application collateral individually. Make sure you're addressing key skills that you found out for the job things. Make sure you're using keywords for the job advert in case there is a robot profiling. Sometimes some organizations have robo profiling. So make sure you replicate keywords from the job advert. Make sure you're highlighting things right up front. When you're customizing your CV, don't be too stuck up on what your old version of the CV was and you add things at the bottom. That's rarely a good strategy. Try and, if possible, try and start from scratch and say, what do you want your CV to tell your prospective looker in the 7 seconds, and bring that out at upfront. Use your covering letter to complement your CV. Yes, you'll have a sentence, I am sure it will be the best for your job, etc. But don't just write a covering letter for the sake of covering letter. Make sure there's something interesting in there, because 7 seconds is a short time, right? And so your actual space that you have in terms of your document to attract the seer's attention is a premium. So use that space wisely and make sure it's highlighting the best that you can do and the best that's required for that role based on the research you have done. Okay, that's all the concepts. I've been talking a lot. Some questions have come in. Thank you very much for that. Any questions so far on the content? Okay, no hands raised. So I want to talk about scenarios, and I'm going to try and make this part a little more interactive, okay? And again, please raise your hands up, or just please feel to put comments on the comment section of this Zoom session, okay? So I'm going to give a scenario. Now, I have explained all the stuff about how to find your dream job, the 3-step concepts, the 3 concepts, okay? I'm going to give a scenario. Okay, Roger hates his job. He feels severely disconnected with his job. He hates his boss, cannot stand to be near that person. He avoids his boss like a plague. He also doesn't get along with a few people in his team and hates the sight of them. Roger feels his skills are completely underused and he should be doing something different. Monday is a pain, and by 10 a.m. on Monday, he's counting down to Friday. How does Roger handle the situation? And as a friend, what advice would you give him? So I think we all know a Roger in our lives, right? These people are there all around. Maybe a little bit of Roger exists in us as well. So now I'm going to ask 1 or 2 volunteers, or maybe 3. And if you don't want to formally volunteer and speak on camera, then feel free, just put some comments. Put some comments and tell me how you're going to address the situation. If Roger was your close friend, what would your advice be? And maybe use some of the stuff I've said or something that you feel. Anyone with their hand up, any volunteers, please, so people can hear a different voice than mine. Even if you want to make a funny comment, that's fine as well. But I'd just like to hear a few voices and just come out and say, what should Roger do?
Hi, Marisa speaking here.
Hey, Marisa.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for this. I'm jobless, so I'm just gathering a lot of information at the moment, okay? So obviously, he needs to find a different job. How he's going to do it is a different matter. He
Yes.
should attend to one of your talks, okay?
Yes.
But he definitely needs to find something else.
Absolutely. Well done, Marisa. That's a nice advice. But tell me more, Marisa. What do you think Roger can do in his current situation?
What he can do in his current situation? Well, I'm an expert on surviving modes, okay? So he will have to not take everything so personal. I think that might help a little bit. When you are under so much pressure and feeling so uncomfortable is quite challenging. I'm talking from my own experience, you know, when you don't feel valued with when nothing is going right, okay, it's really difficult not to take it personally because people are making you feel responsible for that when not necessarily is your responsibility, if you know what I mean, okay? So probably that would be the first thing. Secondly, well, just to ask him to suggest him looking for other options, yes?
Okay.
And just try to keep cool and calm, if possible. Yes, don't know, meditation, whatever. But it's very, very, very challenging. And I'm don't really want to go there, how challenging it was, okay? At least for me, anyway. So that is what I think, just like that, I would try to infer to him and give him some support, emotional support. Probably he's desperate and he needs someone to talk to or to share or just, so to practice some deep listening. I attended to your workshop, so would be absolutely fantastic. I think that would be my offering, to listen and listen.
Fantastic, Marisa.
Can I offer a comment
very,
here?
very good point. Sarah raised her hand. Sarah, do you want to go next? And then Cesare, I can see you raised your hand as well. I'll come next to you. Sarah, Steffi raised her hand, sorry.
Oh, that's from earlier. Sorry, let me just lower it again.
Okay. Oh, there's quite a few raised hands. Hold on.
Steffi, Duma, I'm not sure who raised their hand first, but I can see Steffi, Duma, and Marianne.
Okay, let's go. And also, Cesare also raised his hand. So let's go Steffi first. Apologies if that's not the right order, but I'll give everyone a chance. This is kind of towards the end of the presentation, so we've got some space.
Thank you, Prakash, for the presentation. I was in a similar situation a few years ago. I was in a job that I don't like, with a boss I didn't like, a woman boss, and I felt like I was doing nothing, because it was asked me to just print paper, print documents, and sending for signature to the boss, and which was only this. It was very frustrating for me, because I used to do much more. Then I decided to distract myself, and so I subscribed to enrolled to a Spanish course to focus on something else completely. And then I started looking for another job. I'm starting also to spread the word through my network. Then after a year, I got fired from this job. A few months later, even my husband left me. But you know, I found the energy to focus more and more on looking for another job. And after a few months, I found a new one. And now I'm still there. I mean, this is not the perfect job, but however, I'm at one. So we have to be resilient and keep going.
Fantastic. The last word was the resilience. So both of you share your stories. First of all, thank you very much for sharing your stories, Steffi. I appreciate that. But also in terms of advice, I can see that you now have empathy. So if you had Roger was your friend, you'd be able to connect with him being in that situation. And so your advice will be empathetic in nature. And that's very important. And that's very good to have. Thank you very much for that. Let's move on to Marianne.
Hi, Prakash. I think some of the points I wanted to raise have already been shared by the lovely ladies before me. I would say, like, sometimes I would see if Rocha was always like that, or if it happened suddenly. And if it happens suddenly, then there must be something that's causing there. It could be something that is entirely nothing to do with the work he's doing. It could be like personal from family or like friends or something like that. And sometimes what happens is, like, as human beings, when something is going on, we project that whatever is happening in our lives to the outside world, whether it's like family, maybe something is happening in the workplace, and then we take it back to the family, or vice versa. So if Rocha was my friend, I would have opened this space and said, like, okay, is there something you want to talk, you want to share? If he's okay with it, fine. If not, I would say, like, okay, maybe it would be nice, or like maybe you could try to see what's going on outside the workplace and see like which one is affecting the other, and see what you can do about it. And the other thing is, like, sometimes maybe he perceives like the other colleagues at his workplace might not appreciate what he's doing, but it could be something that is entirely from like our inner selves, or like from his inner selves. Maybe it has nothing to do with it, but then that's how he perceives what the way the other colleagues are behaving towards him. So
That's great advice. Thank you. And that's there's elements of there that was very, very good. Thank you very much for sharing that. Elisa, do you want to go next?
Yes, hi. Thank you for your presentation. Well, as you said before, he selected this job, so something should be good for him. So maybe in this period of time, while he's searching for a new job, he can focus on the good things of this job. It's not easy, but it's possible, because for some reason, he chose this job. And yes, I also liked the fact that sometimes there is something that is beyond the job, so it's private. So maybe try to see if he's unhappy is because of a job or because of a private life. So
excellent, Elisa. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Good advice, by the way. Duma, do you want to go next? And then I'll go to Cesarilla after that.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Prakash. I think this is so many things our friend like that. I see also, like, I have some friend like this. I think, in my opinion, the first, I need to have like really ear to understanding his position. And then I will maybe give advice. Maybe Roger can notice what he really like about this job. Maybe this is the first time what he really like, because the mention like Roger has his job. So because he takes this offering, maybe like make a list first he really like it. And then number two, maybe he need to list what skill he have right now, what skill he have, and then like what the top, maybe like make a list another like top 5 the list kind job he really like it. After he make a top list the skill and then top list the job, and then from there, so just preparing what the market need from this list job, and then from there like maybe like extra homework in the few months, preparing for the requirement, and then continue to find what really he like it. I think this is in my opinion. Yeah. Thank you.
No, I think that's fantastic as well, by the way. It's great advice. And I'm going to make a point, but I want Cesare to have a say as well. Cesare, go next.
Hi. First of all, I am an employer. I've been employing people 35 years. And I'm happy to tell you my experiences today. I was just looking at CVs. However, in terms of Roger, I would have the following comments. Getting a job is like getting a relationship. And there's lots of toxic relationships. And people get into toxic relationships with their work and their jobs as well. Now, Roger clearly has allowed the situation to deteriorate to the point when he hates his job. So it is late in the day for him to start untangling it. He simply has to leave. The second thing is that before you start the job, you really have to understand yourself, because many people like Roger, for example, did. I'm suspecting, he needed money, and once you need money, you suspend your ambitions and your hopes and your personal preferences, whatever. You get what you can get in terms of earning the money. So if he's going to look again for a new job, he might end up with the same syndrome, because like in relationships, we are prone to go for toxic relationships or people who abuse us. And he might end up in exactly the same situation with a new employer. From my experience, I'm just looking for a new architect. This is quite a narrow field, but I've been doing it for 35 years. And I have advertised very specifically what I need. I got quite a few CVs from all over the planet, which is the syndrome these days. People are completely inappropriate, but they try their luck, which takes my time, which is extremely irritating. And then, what I try to see is whether the person would fit with me. I run a small studio, so it's quite a personal relationship. So I first check the parameters in terms of the experience, whether it fits in. But the next thing is I want to understand whether they know anything about me and whether they have any interest in me, and they are willing to, to contribute to what I'm trying to achieve. And this will be my first and main advice to all people looking for work, that, it is natural that people just need to earn to live, but it is not what the employers offer. We don't offer people a position to take money home every end of month. We offer positions to people who would work with us towards a mutual aim, who have the motivation, who have the drive, and who have the personality to do it. And I'm sure there's a job for everybody. It's just a matter of searching out. It's like relationships. I mean, you go to a dating website, and you look at, who you might mesh with, and that's exactly the same story. You should not go for it just because somebody looks nice on a picture, for example.
Absolutely.
If your comparative parameters don't match.
Absolutely. Very, very well articulated, Cesare. You can see that your experience and you got a lot of knowledge in the field. I wanted to highlight to all of you, when we turn advisors to Roger, a lot of us have really, really good ideas. So none of what advices you gave was even remotely less than excellent. I mean, it was all excellent advice. When we turn advisors, it's so much, we see the light. It's amazing when we are in that situation, that light becomes a lot more blurred. And that's key. And so I've written down a few points that I use as a structure. By no means is this the complete list, but I think there's some important points in this list that I'll just bring out. So the first thing I'll say is, you have to arrest that negativity. And I know Cesare said it's too late. That's fine. You might be too late to rescue the job, but it's not too late to arrest the negativity that's around your current situation. So I would advise Roger to have a positive discussion with colleagues that he does get along with. Find out what was that original thing. Get some positivity. Build a space to discuss things with positive people around you. So all the lovely people who gave advice and how they said that they, as a friend, they want to just give that person a space to share, whether it's personal problems, whether it's professional. When you are in that situation, look out for these friends, and they are all around you. Everyone has them. Look out, but make sure, whether you're talking to your colleagues or your friends, try and be a little clever about finding people that will give you positivity. One thing, try as much as you can to avoid or reduce is go to someone else who's in the same pain, and both of you are going in together into a negative spiral. You have that all the time. You know, you're going to talk about your problematic boss to a colleague who's got even worse problems than you. And then you and him start really building that negativity and how horrible it is. And you're just sharing horrible stories, and it's just negative. It's okay to share. It's okay to get yourself the space, but try and find people that will give you the space, but will try and resist that negative spiral, not people who actually add on and build that spiral further down. Then someone else said that, and again, I want to build on that. Find 10 minutes a day on doing something positive at the workplace. Try and reattach to your workplace. Even if it's just a little conversation, a meeting, a small meeting with someone, you do a little design of something, whatever it is, find that little activity that cheers you up in a day. And then to build on that, find a piece of work in your job that you like. I mean, someone earlier said they did a language course, they did other courses. That's great, but try and connect it to your workplace as well as an option. Okay, try and approach these and find those spaces to arrest that negativity in your current job. One advice I'm glad no one gave is to just resign and go home. I mean, I'm glad that no one gave that advice, because yes, it could be the worst thing. You're such in a bad state, and at Chesary's point, you're so divorced, it's bad. But I'd almost say that should be not just the last, but the resort even after the last resort, even if there is such a thing. You know, try and avoid that situation. It is a lot more difficult, and some people in the audience will attest to that, to find a job when you're out of it than when you're in it. There are some cases where you can find more time, but I'd almost say in majority or more than majority, really the maximum number of cases, it's better to stay and learn a lot more being in that workplace environment than just going home. However, another thing that's pretty controversial, a lot of people will hate what I'm suggesting here because you all had that horrible bosses. I've done the session, the previous session. Do try to make an effort to reconnect with your boss. Remember, there is no positive use of burning your bridges with your boss. At best, you've burnt your bridges. You don't want to come back to that company, and you move on, and the boss is irrelevant. But that's the best case scenario. At worst, he's someone influential. You've burnt your bridges with it. He can influence you in various other parts of a career when you least need it. So if nothing else, try and make sure you don't burn your bridges with your boss. Try and make an effort to reconnect. Even if you think that you're going to find another job, try and make that effort. Making that effort will add to your skill set, will add to your patience, will improve your ability to deal with future bosses. So having that reconnection is important. Find 3 good things about your job, even if it's a sandwich at lunchtime. You know, I make that excuse. Try and reconnect. You know, find that thing to motivate yourself, so that if Roger at 10 o'clock on a Monday morning is counting down to Friday, if he can make that 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, if he can last till Tuesday, that's a step in the right direction. He might still want to go and find another job. I'm not saying he shouldn't, but don't divorce from your current workplace. And to those people who are really in that spiral and a bad state, sometimes there is an alternate to just resigning and going home. Take a break, take a vacation, take an unpaid leave if you feel really under that kind of stress. Regenerate, switch off from your situation, go and then come back. Prakash, I see you got your hand up. Give me 1 minute. Let me finish this point and then I'll come back to you. Okay. And last, Also find space in your day to focus on what you'd like to do. Give yourself a challenge and something you can do. Push yourself. Try and reduce the hours on work that gives you pain and you don't connect with. Try and work around your day. Now, not all of this is easy, not all of this is practical, but explore passionately what is possible. Make sure you use your skill set to negotiate what's possible. If you're already on a flexible hour and you want to go and your boss say, I want even more flexibility when all the rest of the colleagues are not as flexible as you are, then that's not a great discussion to have. But find out, be sensitive to the environment, reconnect, find out what else is possible, negotiate, maybe change your shift a little bit so you're not constantly in that colleague's pace that you don't like. Try and improve. The first point is to try. What works out, what doesn't work out is the second stage, but at least make that effort and keep making that effort to improve your current workspace. And then as you're doing this and as your mindset is less negative, because any action you do, you want to do it from a positive mindset. Finding your dream job is a full-time job. It's a project, and it's a project that's going to make a difference to you. And you want to start that project, that full-time job, in a positive mindset. There's no point in starting it in a negative mindset. So try and find that positivity first. Try and address the situation in your workplace, the toxicity in your workplace. Try and deal with that first to at least make it to a manageable level before you start the research into yourself and trying to find that dream job. So that's something I'd always advise. And yes, that cartoon I thought was very poignant, which I've just showed on the screen. There's always someone with a more tougher job than you have, no matter how bad your job is. Cesare, you wanted to make a point.
Yeah, I just wanted to add another thing to it, because there's art in joining a company, but there's also art in leaving the company. And if Roger decided to leave, it has to be done in such a way that he doesn't leave any stink behind, because he wants to put this job on his CV. At some point, I, as an employer, I seek references, as to how the person performed the previous companies. And, and I had a situation several times in my life that I had people who were absolutely awful for us. And then, they went off, and 6 months later they said, would you please write me a reference? And so,
absolutely.
What do you want me to say? The truth, or what do you want to say?
Absolutely. And that's key, as I said. There's nothing good coming out of burning your bridges with your boss. There's absolutely nothing that ever good has come out. The best case you can hope for is that you don't need him for references, you don't need him for anything, and he doesn't interfere in your life. That's the best you can hope for. And in more often than not, that best case scenario, he will come back to bite you in some way. Nature and the universe and your career and everything, it will come back to bite you. There's nothing positive out of divorcing and burning bridges.
Especially
some additional tips I'll add, and these are just generic, and it's valid across the whole scenario, which is, spend at least 2 to 3 hours every day as if you're in a job. If you're currently in a job, make sure you find the space. Finding your dream jobs is something that's very, very important for you. If you got a 9-to-5 job, if you're spending 35, 40, 50 hours in your current job, there's still no excuse. You still need to find those 2 to 3 hours every day into trying and finding your dream job, because that is the important thing in your life. You have to find a way. I don't have an alternative to that. It's impossible to find an alternative. Like I said, it's no shortcut to these things. It's your dream job. You want to invest your time in it. And if you're not in a job, make it your full-time job. Make it your passion, your job, 7 to 8 hours a day as if you're in a full-time job. Wake up in the morning, get fresh, sit in front of, pretend you're starting your job, and your job is to find your dream job. Make that effort. Again, at the risk of sounding repetitive, there is no shortcut to effort. If you can't work hard in finding your own dream job, then as an employer, there's very little you're going to really work hard on, right? If you can't work hard for yourself, it's difficult to justify they're going to work hard for someone else. So there's no excuse for the effort. So please find a way to motivate yourself. Make a plan. Use that effort intelligently. Make a plan execute on the plan, reflect on what you're doing, and improve. Treat it like a job. Develop good habits in the time you're looking for that. Use that exercise, whether it's 2-3 hours, to develop some good professional habits, whether it's researching, whether it's subscribing to publications, whether it's reading material. You know, a lot of times, and Steffi and others, you talked about being jobless for a while. I'm sure you did a lot of things, and then sometimes the habit dies when you go into a new job. Try and make it more strong habit forming. Keep some good habit, develop some good habits in the period where you're dreaming and getting your dream job. And try to find a way to enjoy that experience. I think that is crucial. It's an experience to hunt your dream job, and try and make that an enjoyable experience as much as possible, as opposed to a painful experience. And a lot of people mention this, that standard advice. It's amazing how it's so standard, and anyone, I don't think I'm preaching to anyone new, but it's so difficult to practice. Make sure you exercise, make sure you meditate or relax, keep fresh every day, keep yourself focused, keep yourself energized. If you're already in a job and you've got a second job to find your dream job, that's 2 jobs you're doing. Make sure you're supporting your health in order to do those 2 jobs. If you've got only 1 job and that's to look for your dream job, then even that requires a lot of maintenance to make sure you're mentally, physically in a positive state. And last, and I think Marisa and quite a few others of you mentioned that, surround yourself with support. That is crucial. As you guys empathized with the person in that situation, when you're that person, reach out to support, surround yourself with support. It's important. It makes a huge difference. And again, learn to take a break. Finding your dream job is a tiring job. It's rewarding, it's wonderful, but it's also a tiring job. Learn to take breaks when the mind is stressed, when your body is stressed. Learn to switch off, allow yourself some relax. So I talked about not spending enough time, but obviously you don't want to burn out on the other extreme as well. That's not good for anyone either. So be very attentive to your body, your needs, take breaks. And in summary, this kind of brings to the conclusion. I just want to highlight 2 or 3 very, very vital points that helps everyone get towards their dream job. Finding a dream job is a job. Treat it seriously and professionally. Believe in yourself, be patient and resilient. Enjoy the journey, and remember, every step gets you closer and makes you better. And last, never give up. Your break will come. Thank you very much. That concludes my session. Cesare, you want to make any closing comments, and I'll let the others open up as well. I've got a little more time for comments.
Well, I think I'm just happy to answer questions if anybody has questions to an employer.
No, I'll take the questions if it's okay, Cesare, and I'll answer that. But if you want to share any experiences, that's fine. So any comments or questions from the wider audience?
I think Prakash, you did such a great job, explained everything so clearly. There isn't much to ask. But I wanted to ask you quickly, because people were asking me, where will it be on YouTube? So Prakash, I already made the assumption it'll be on my YouTube channel. Is that correct?
That's correct, Nadia. I have nowhere else to put it apart from your channel.
Thank you, Prakash. Thanks for your loyalty. So it seems a lot of people are interested in watching the recording because they messaged me about it.
Indeed.
Anyway, sorry, I don't want
What I'd also say in terms of feedback, for those of you who have been following my sessions, I always have a little feedback form that I would love to get your feedback from. If I could, it takes 1 to 2 minutes. And it's actually proven that it takes so much time because people have given me lots of feedback in my previous sessions. I would love for all of you to spend those 2 or 3 minutes. The link is there on the screen, but I would request Nadia to just post that in the event chat and also publish it in that event log. If I could request all of you, as many of you, to just give me those 2 minutes of your time to give me some feedback. There's only one textual comment, a question where you can add your comments and your views. please feel free to use that. Otherwise, it's just a multiple choice feedback. So I would request all of you to please, please, please give me some feedback. I'll read them all. I love them. And it helps me be better in the sessions that I do. So I'll give one more chance for anyone who wants to ask a question or make any comments about the topic. And then I'll call it a close. Any hands up?
Yes. Sorry.
Marissa, you want to say something? No, you muted yourself. You were on mute. Now you muted yourself, Marissa.
No, I was just saying I'm breathing all of this in and out, okay? Assimilating and being very thankful for this session. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, Marissa. Okay, I'll take that as no further questions. Listen, guys, thank you for your participation. It's been wonderful. I'll also say for all of you in this group that are still remaining, if you want to reach out to me just to have a follow-up chat, just to talk about some things, please do. I'll always try and find some time. It's just to have a chat, nothing else. And if you want to ask me questions on the content or have a discussion about a situation, it's absolutely just a chat, and I'm happy to find some time for you. And that's just feel free to reach out. So on that note, thank you very much for your time, guys. Nadia, any closing comments from you, please?
No, I just want to say thank you very much. Looking forward to next week when you'll be talking about it's to do with resumes, right? CVs, how to write a good CV.
Actually, it's about interviewing and how to interview and do the interviewing skills. So I'm going to focus a little more on interviewing skills. I'm going to do some sample interviews. So it's be a little more interactive, not so much slides. And so I have some thought processes there, but that's next Tuesday.
Okay. Someone actually just wrote a question. I'm not sure how do you reconnect with a boss you hate? I'm curious if you'd like to make a comment, but not necessarily.
Sorry, what's that question again, Nadia? I didn't quite catch that. I'm just reading through the chat if I can see it myself.
How do you reconnect with a boss you hate?
So listen, that's a great question, and it's interesting because we've all been there, and we've talked about it in our previous session, and there's a little video as well in terms of the boss and ultimately when a relationship breaks down, there's two people that takes to break it, and also there's two people that takes to mend it. So there's something on your side as well. Sometimes if time has passed, right, there's nothing, there's nothing stopping you from just reaching out, saying a hello, saying how you are. Because if you can bring a new perspective to that broken relationship, sometimes time heals it. It's always about trying. The first step to any kind of healing, any kind of contact is to clear agenda and make sure you have a positive agenda and positive attitude. There's no shortcut to that. If you've got a hidden agenda, you're trying to rebuild your relationship with your boss because you want that reference, and it's like agenda is very prominent, it will come out very soon. So a lot of times, the first step is just be introspective and make sure your intentions and your agenda is as clean as possible. Then it's about trial. Reach out and say hello. Hello, how are you is the most standard way of reaching out. There's a possible that the boss still holds a grudge and has got no interest, and he comes back and says, sorry, I'm not interested. That's okay. But there's still a good chance he might come back. He might feel the same as you are. You might have wondered why that negativity was there, and maybe he's also looking for some closure. Maybe he wants to re-engage as well. But if you don't try, you don't know. So again, that's introspection. Remove the fear, remove the agenda, reach out genuinely, and hope for the best. That was the answer, Nadia.
Thank you. Thank you. You always have the answer for everything. Well, wonderful. Thank you very much, Prakash. And good night, I guess, unless anyone wants to say anything.
No problem. Thank you very much, guys. Have a great rest of the day and see you soon. Bye.